Hi, today I'd like to briefly take you through the cellular pathways that are involved in HPV infections and how does normal human cells become cancer cells. So let's take a look at the board. So I've drawn two human cells here. So any normal human cell, a healthy normal human cell. So usually what happens during the cell cycle is that on the receptor of the surface, once it receives the stimulation of growth factor, once this growth factor binds in this receptor, then this receptor on the surface of the human cell, the healthy cell, will then send a signal to a CDK cycline. Now you don't need to know too much about this, but it's an important enzyme in the cellular pathways. So once CDK cycline is activated, it will then send another signal to PRB. PRB is the important hormone in regulating the cell cycle and also preventing tumor to form. So CDK cycline, once it's stimulated, it will cause the phosphorylation of PRB. Phosphorylation. So phosphorylation simply means that there will be phosphates attached on this enzyme. So once they are attached, this will go into an inactive state. Inactive state. PRB is basically shut down. And when this happens, this will mean that the cell is no longer in the growth phase anymore. It will then proceed to the S phase. S phase, so that it can prepare itself to go into cell cycle, into the cell division. But if it's infected with HPV infection, if this cell is infected with HPV infection, there will be a presence of an E7 viral oncogene protein caused by where this comes from is because of the HPV. This guy will merge with the PRB, causing the PRB to degrade. So if PRB is degraded, there is no longer anything to phosphorylate. Now this will cause the cell to stay in the G1 phase. This is called a G1 arrest phase. The cell will continue to proliferate and stuck in this phase and then eventually turn into cancer cells. On the top here, there's another human cell with a normal human DNA. Now P53 here detects any problems with the DNA of the cell, and if there's anything wrong with it, it will activate apoptosis, which is cell death, to kill the cell so that this bad DNA, this infected cell, cannot produce. So if there is any problem with this DNA, it will activate P53 to initiate apoptosis. So if it's infected with HPV, this one will have an E6 viral oncoprotein made by the HPV infection. E6 will bind with P53, causing it to degrade. So if there's any damage in the DNA caused by radiation or infection, there is no longer P53 to cause cell death. So this type of infected cell with a damaged DNA that is not supposed to be alive continues to grow and proliferate, eventually leading to cancer. So that's the basic cellular pathway that occurs in HPV and how it leads to cancer cells.